From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
You're listening to Music Business Radio. I'm Dan Buckley, sitting in for David Hooper. Our guest today is Todd Snider. He's a Nashville-based singer-songwriter, and his most recent project is Hardworking Americans. They've just put out their debut album and are actually on the verge of doing another record. We're excited to talk to him about that. And today, Todd Snider, welcome to the Lightning 100 Studios.
Yes, thank you for having me, man.
So, Todd, I want to start off by talking about your story and find out what was it exactly that made you want to be a songwriter.
Let's see. Well, when I was a young kid, like the writing parts of school I liked the most. And then when I got old enough to know like bands and things like that, I thought lyric would probably be the coolest thing to write, and started. And then I moved to Texas when I was about 20, and I saw Jerry Jeff Walker play by himself, just a guitar and nothing else, and he was singing songs about his life. And I went the next day and got like a guitar at a pawn shop, started following him around and learned to play guitar from watching him, because it's just he plays a few chords, and I learned from watching him. And I guess it was just because the guitar didn't seem that difficult, what he was doing. It was only like a 400-seat, 500-seat place, and he was singing about this life of being this sort of free-spirited person who didn't have anywhere to go and didn't have any money to get to that non-place that he didn't have to go to. And I was all those things. And so I thought, and it's true, the difference between a free spirit and a freeloader is 3 chords. And I learned that from him, and I headed that direction. And I was 20 when I decided I wanted to be the Ramblin' Jack Elliott of my time.
20 years old,
yeah.
And
it was 1986, 87, something like that.
Where'd you go from Texas?
I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. I was living with a girl, and she dumped me. And it also happened that my father was doing construction work in Memphis, and he was at a bar, and he overheard the waitress say that her sister was married to a guy named Keith Sykes, who had written some songs for Jimmy Buffett and Jerry Jeff Walker. And when my dad heard that, it dinged, and he called me right from the bar and said, "Man, I think I can get one of your songs to somebody that knows Jerry Jeff Walker." And that's what I did. And he got my tape, called me like 2 months later and said it was okay. And the next day I was driving to his house.
Wow.
And then I got halfway to his house when the car broke down. And then so I didn't hitch a ride. I just talked the guy at the gas station into taking me there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you feeling pretty excited at that point?
Well, yeah, he wasn't necessarily like, "You're great." He said I could come in and that he would show me stuff. But it was another 5 years, I think, before I made an album. And he wouldn't soft soap the stuff that he tried to teach me. So it was like a dream come true. It's like what somebody, my dear friend Lindsay McDonald said, "Face your fantasies and you will face your fears." And it felt similar.
Can you remember something in particular that he told you?
Oh God, yeah. But do I want to tell everybody else, Well, he would say I would rip stuff off a lot, He'd be like, "God, that's just completely something else, And he would tell me, you don't have tempo, and your tempo is terrible. And he was right. Or sometimes it would be like, "Oh, so now this summer it's REM, huh? When are we going to get back to the thing we're working on?"
Wow.
And that would be true. And then I learned as I got older and got around all his peers and stuff that they're all like that. A lot of them are like that.
So a lot of growth during that period.
I felt like he taught me a lot. And I should also say his wife, too. They both did, because she produced him some of his best work. So it wouldn't just be him. It would be them. They would be like, "This one's good, except for the end of it." Or this one, geez, how many verses I've seen the girl. How many verses does she get on her eyes? I saw those eyes. They weren't that great, that kind of thing. I learned from it, though, and got to be around Guy Clark and John Prine and Townes Van Zandt and all those other people just from being Keith's ice runner.
And your work got to Jimmy Buffett?
Yeah.
Did you ever get to write with him or spend time with Jimmy?
Oh, sure. Lots of it. First, I got a record contract when Capitol was called Liberty for a couple of years by a guy named Buzz Stone. And I made a demo tape that was country and a demo tape that was rock, and then got fired. And the way that I got fired was kind of funny, and it made me look cooler than I was by the time it got around. And Jimmy thought that was funny. And he gave me this record deal and said I could do whatever I wanted. And by that time, there was a few people that were asking me if I wanted to have record deals, but they wanted me to either be rock or country. And I kind of wanted to try to be both. I knew that was a thing that never worked, but it's still fun to do.
Is that kind of maybe where Americana is?
I definitely think a whole lot of people were thinking the same way I was in those days. And it had already happened a lot. You know, the 70s had a huge rock and roll meets country music and creates its own genre. You know, that Willie Whalen stuff, that for a long time they just played it for 2 hours on Sunday, and then Red-Headed Stranger popped, and all of a sudden, if you didn't rob a bank, you weren't in anymore, you know, But yeah, so I feel like we have our own little a side of country music, and I like to think that the East Nashville side is the part of it that doesn't not like normal old country music is what I call it, or the other side of the river music. We don't sit around. We like that stuff on our side.
We had Norbert Putnam on the show recently, and he talked about dreading this song that Jimmy had called Margaritaville, and he didn't even want to hear it. Yeah. He just thought it was going to be really cliche and terrible. And then he hears it, and he's like, this is the perfect song. Yeah. Is that how you feel? Do you feel like...
Do I think that's a perfect song? I for sure think it's a perfect song. And my mentor, guy that taught me to write songs from the very beginning, put it right in there with Bobby McGee. And Jimmy immediately was really good to me. And really, you know, there's no way I wouldn't still be working if he hadn't have let me make, I think it was 2.5 records for him, because him and MCA split. And I went with MCA. That's how it ended up going. But we stayed friends. And Bob Mercer, who ran Margaritaville, was my friend I sang at his funeral last year, you know. But Jimmy, man, took me in all them planes. Man, one time I made an album, and he was like, good job, son, here. And he threw me the keys to his house in Key West and said, why don't you see if you can get some kind of girl, go down and take a little time off.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. He'd do stuff like that a lot. You know, when I think back on it, it's hard to even think about, because I meet parrot heads all the time, and I'm like, I can't tell them that. They'll pop if I tell them that.
Right. Yeah. He was a deadhead.
Oh, it's for sure. He's still a deadhead. I have a book that comes out in April, and it's about the one big fight we got into, where he unloaded his deli tray on me. But I wouldn't be telling that story if I didn't think I had it coming. And I think that when he unloaded that deli tray on me, I think that was the right thing to do. I think that was you know, like if I would have been the judge, I'd say, you know what, you little smart ass, you know what I'm going to have this guy do? Mr. Buffett, why don't you unload your deli tray on Mr. Snider, and we'll call it even.
So you have a book coming out.
Yeah, it's called I Never Met a Story I Didn't Like. And my manager, who's here, Bert, got me that by bringing a guy to a show. You know, I talk at the shows a lot. And I got Bert from Bob Mercer. Bob Mercer told me that that he had a new manager for me and to report on money. And that's been 8 years ago.
We're talking to Todd Snider in the Lightning 100 studios. He's our guest on Music Business Radio.
Yeah, I keep trying to go music biz on you. Let's see, what else do I know about it?
You've certainly seen it change.
Not really. I feel like because I came out in 94 and kind of built a team. And so I have heard a lot about it and I have reaped the benefits of all this stuff, but haven't really been, like, I still don't know how to work the computers very good, or, you know, I can get my mail, but I feel just old enough to, sometimes I feel like I was right on that perfect cusp of it. Like, I don't know if I'd still have a job if it wasn't for the way things all changed, but I don't know anything about those changes, just that kids are always looking at their phone, and somehow I think I get this thing because of it.
The adult pacifiers.
I never heard that. I remember the first time they said they had internet where, you know, somebody was, you know, talking about me on a computer, and I just was, wow, you know. Someone said that they met my sister in the parking lot or something.
So you were in Memphis.
Yeah.
Were you in Memphis in 1994?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
So at what point did you transition to Nashville?
In 97, or 96, I had made 2 records, and I'd just gotten home from the second tour. And I just wanted to relax, so I got a place in Fairview and went out there and slept for a few months and got ready for the next tour.
Well, you've certainly seen Nashville change a lot.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, then the very next year I fell in love and my wife moved here. We moved to East Nashville right after the tornado, and so that neighborhood really blew up. I mean, when I moved there, there was hookers walking up and down the street, and there was a bar you could take a stolen bicycle in and run a tab with it, you know.
What?
For sure, yeah. There was.
That's real?
That's real. The place that is the Three Crow now, you could steal a lawnmower and just take it in there and get a couple of beers for it. And they'd whomp it out the back and go get, you know, but now it looks like a Kings of Leon after party all the time. And I like it. I love it. And everybody's drawing something or writing something.
Yeah. One of your bands, Elmo Buzz and the Eastside Bulldogs, celebrates East Nashville.
Yeah. That's all our songs are about is East Nashville. We only get to play a couple times a year, and we never play for money.
So it's one of the things you must really enjoy doing then.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a cool way to try out new things.
Well, before we get into the hardworking American stuff, can we take a listen to that as we end this section?
Oh,
here?
yeah. Here comes the Bulldogs.
All right, let's take a listen. Our guest today on Music Business Radio is Todd Snider, and this is one of his bands he's a member of, Elmo Buzz and the Eastside Bulldogs.
Hey, baby, let's rock and roll. It's all right if you lose control. Everybody's trying to get their kicks. Living in 37206. I said 37206. Everybody trying to get their kicks. Right now if you lose control. I said, hey, baby, let's rock and roll. All right, mama, let's shoot for the roof. The whole neighborhood's bulletproof. It's going down like a half ton of bricks. 37206. I said 37206. Everybody trying to get their kicks. Either way you want to take your pick. I said I got the T-shirt and the bumper sticker.
Hi, this is John Hyatt, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
Lightning 100 presents Hardworking Americans featuring Todd Snider and Dave School's Widespread Panic.
All I want to do is stomp and holler.
Live at Marathon Music Works, Friday, February 21st.
Ain't going down to the well no more. Believe I had my fill.
Tickets on sale now at the venue box office or online at marathonmusicworks.com. Hardworking Americans featuring Todd Snider and Dave School's Widespread Panic, February 21st.
I'm out here in the filth and squalor. All I want to do is stomp and holler.
This is Emmylou Harris, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
You're listening to Music Business Radio. My guest today is Todd Snider. We know him as a solo performer who's been based in the Nashville area for many years, more specifically the East Nashville area. And a new project you're getting to do, Todd, is called Hardworking Americans. You guys have a self-titled record that you did. Tell us about putting together this band. I believe it started with you and Dave Schools of Widespread Panic.
Right, yeah. We've been not fans. We've been friends of each other since 94 when I think I opened some shows, and we see each other over the years. And then as I've gotten older, just, I don't know, I've always been a folk singer, and then my thing I like to do on my day off is go see the bands that jam. That's what I like. I'm not drawn to as wordy of stuff as I do, I think sometimes like guitar players are lyrical, and so I get into that. Booker T is what I like. So I was just telling Bert and some of my friends about it, and I was telling him about it, and it thought, well, why don't you put your foot into that, see if you're okay at it, And no one's ever really said, gee, you're such a great singer that you should just stop doing folk and sing. But somehow it felt like I was going to get to sneak in and do this thing and be part of this band that was going to be really good. And it just kept going. Then Neil Casal come in. That's my favorite band right now is Chris Robinson Brotherhood. And I don't even do anything. I just have the best seat there in the house. And then I get to be the one who finds the songs. And that part of it, I feel completely, I say humbly, not completely, kind of qualified to do that,
That's a humble brag.
That's a humble brag. I think we all agree that Gillian Welch and Hayes Carl are good songwriters, right? There's people that might argue that. But, that's hopefully what I can really bring to the group. And I could sing with my heart,
So you have Dave Schools, you, Neil Casal, and Chad Staley.
Yeah.
Dwayne Trucks. And recently you've also added Jesse Acock.
Yeah. I think he's official. I think I saw something today about him being a member.
That's awesome.
Great guy, man. He just made a great record. And such an amazing... I have learned a lot of... And not that I knew a bunch of it. But just... Boy, I just enjoy being on the bus with them. And I bought 9 records last week just from everybody else DJing. We share iPods. And you think there's not some old 60 blues record that you haven't... come on, really? There's another one? I thought I knew them all.
Dave Schools.
He knows everything, man.
He is.
He has he has a little thing that he carries around that has every song in the world on it. I'm pretty sure. If you can name a record, he knows of it, knows when it was made, and has it on his phone.
Wow.
So does Neil. So does Dwayne. Not me, man. I got all my Jerry Jeff. You guys want to listen to Jerry Jeff?
Well, let's talk about a little bit further in depth these songs that found their way onto this record. Was it hard to limit it to these songs, or?
I think there was about 20. That maybe I could go further if I was going to talk about songs that my friends wrote that I feel completely moved, or I feel like something in my life made me feel like I could sing that without feeling phony. And I just memorized those, and I think I could, I could probably do another record of them. And then there's a whole nother stash of songs like that from people that I like, Guy Clark and stuff like that I could go to that I've thought about. And I would like to try to make up the songs for the band, but my thinking when we first started was that the band I wanted to be in was going to be more melodic than me. And I thought maybe if I did some cover songs that I thought had great lyrics that also had great melodies, that I would learn, as through dissecting those songs, I would learn more about melodies. And also by bringing these guys in that know so much about it, that my next batch of songs, whether it's a hard-working record or my record, hopefully it'll be more melodic than the things I've done before.
Do you remember which was the first song that you guys sat down and tried to play?
Yeah, Straight to Hell. And it happened really quickly. Neil picked up an acoustic guitar, and I started singing, and we were standing in a circle, and David said, well, in fact, the big catchphrase of the record was if somebody said, hey, I have an idea, this might be stupid, but listen, I always thought that meant it was time for me to get some coffee because they were about to start killing it, So we're jamming that song for a while, and David says, let's try it as an R&B, like Otis Redding sings this song. And if you listen to it, he's just like, let's just kind of go for a Stax approach. Something about the way I was singing it, he would watch my feet and stuff, and then he'd come up with ideas.
It's a driving and crying song.
Yeah, old country, boot stomper to begin with, sing along, kind of almost played for laughs. I hope Kevin likes it. He says he does.
Let's go ahead and take a listen to that song, Straight to Hell.
Cool.
And can you give it an introduction? Because it's a very visual song if you listen to the words in it.
Sure. A guy named Kevin Kinney, who's the lead singer of Driving and Crying, who's been a really good friend of mine for 20 years or so, wrote it, I think in the early 90s, late 80s. And I think it's about running away from home. And it definitely reminds me of leaving home for myself. And him and I have just always been friends, and I've always thought that was one of them just touched things, at least for me. And he when I used to play at the Daily Planet on Thursdays in Memphis, before I made an album, he came to one of my shows, and after the word got around that he came and sat in with me, I started to get more and more. Kevin really helped me in my life a lot, with his albums and with just making phone calls and stuff to telling people that he thought I was good. What a cool guy that guy is. He's the patron saint of something, man. He's just the realest dude. What an artist, too.
Let's take a listen to Straight to Hell, Hardworking Americans on Music Business Radio.
I grew up just west of the track, holding me to hold me back. Around your door, she's calling out my name. She says, son, won't you go outside? I've got a friend coming over tonight, the 7th one in 7 days. I'll go down to the parking lot, hang out with all my friends, roam the street till dawn comes round again. I come in at 3 a.m. She is waiting for me. She says, where have you been? I said I was out. I said, you're no good 'cause you're running without love. I'm going straight to hell, just like my mama said. I'm going straight to hell. I'm going straight to hell, just like my mama says. I'm going straight to hell. Next door, a girl, she lives about the same age as me. She asked me to come upstairs for a seat. Just then, her mother burst in. She said, yo, that son of a bitch in the wind, get out of my house, hit the road. And I kept falling like a rolling stone. So I'm going straight to hell, just like my mama says. I'm going straight to hell. I'm going straight to hell, just like my mama says. I'm going straight to hell. Yes, I am. as I walked on down the road. $50 and a suitcase steered me clear. She took my hand as we walked in the sun. A new day's promise had begun. We'll make it alone whether you like it or not. I turned around, I shouted out, help me, mother, I'm going straight to hell. Just like my mama said, I'm going straight to hell. I'm going straight to hell. Just like my mama said, I'm going straight to hell. I'm going straight to hell. Just like mama said, I'm going straight to hell. Yes, I am. I'm going straight to hell.
That was Straight to Hell on Music Business Radio by Hardworking Americans. I'm Dan Buckley sitting in for David Hooper, and more with our guest Todd Snider when we return on Music Business Radio.
Hey, this is Ricky from the Wild Feathers. You're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
Got an idea for a TV show but don't know how or where to start? Make it happen with Nashville Education, Community and Arts Television, NECAT. We're a nonprofit that teaches individuals and organizations how to make TV shows, and then we broadcast them for you on TV and the internet. Just 4 nights of class and a very small fee gives NECAT members access to our studio, cameras, and editing room. Find out more at necatnetwork.org or 615-354-1273.
Go on, sucker honey pie. Tonight I'm gonna testify. You make the day to celebrate and you don't have to try.
Hi, this is Jim Lauderdale, and I learned everything I know about the music business on Music Business Radio.
We've got Todd Snider here in the Lightning 100 studios today. So you put together this super group of great musicians and friends of yours.
Yeah.
And hadn't toured at all and played live, but you went into the studios and you went to a really cool studio, the TRI Studios.
Yeah.
Which is it owned by Bob Weir and Phil Lesh?
Just Bob. There's a restaurant right next to it called Terrapin Station that Phil Lesh owns.
Okay.
So that's where they play live.
Okay.
It's Fort Cool.
I
Fort
bet.
Cool is all.
I bet.
Get
Like,
out.
had you been in there before? It was school's idea to go there.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
He goes there a lot because they do those Weir Here podcasts on Mondays, and he's part of that band. And so he had been at that studio, and he was like, "Let's go to this one, you guys. You're gonna love it." You know.
So you've been a professional musician or songwriter your whole life. You've been in a bunch of different studios. What was special about this one to you?
Well, it's hard to describe this, but it really is, for starters, completely mic'd. The room that you record in is a microphone, and it's all filmed too. And the gear itself, I don't know gear very much, you know. But then just the stuff I do know, like all the weirdo light show stuff and caverny stuff, and here's where you do this, and it's just, it was, you know, like what you'd hope, I guess, or what I hoped it was going to be like. But I don't know, you know, and then the engineer, those guys, you know, they were picked by Bob. And Dave, you know, I don't know much about recording, so I don't know that I could be the best person to sell that place. I'd be the one to say I had so much fun there and really liked the way it sounded. But I'm the guy in the band that's like, I don't know what they're doing with all them knobs in there. Some of them you can just turn right fast like that, you know.
I think it's good because you worry about what you worry about. You got plenty on your mind, and you're worrying about the songs.
Right, I hope, yeah. And I don't know much about the other stuff. But I know that I think that it sounded good. And I think David School, our band, sure seems to know a lot about that stuff.
I feel like it's one of your best sounding albums.
Thank you,
that I've
man.
heard sonically.
Thank
It's
you.
just a great record. You guys took the album and you went to John Keane, who's mixed the great Widespread Panic albums.
Yeah, and those REM ones too.
And REM, you've mentioned REM once or twice before, and Dave Schools is from Widespread Panic, which is Athens, Georgia-based band, and REM was Athens, Georgia-based.
Yeah, and then the Drive-By Truckers too. You know, I was thinking about that the other day. I lived in Georgia for a little bit, but this group that I'm in now, and I almost called it Southern Rock, it really feels very like we're from Georgia to me. Like there's some driving and crying, and there's a lot of driving and crying, REM, Black Crowes, Widespread Panic. Like I would use those four bands, like we're just kind of a hodgepodge of those four groups, not to be oversimplifying it, but I don't know. It's like I almost would call us a post. Anyway, yeah, I love that Georgia stuff. I'm glad you brought it up. And Dwayne lives right there in the thick of it all. And I think all of us at one time or another lived there.
We're talking to Nashville's own Todd Snider about his band, The Hardworking Americans. You did your debut album at Bob Weir's TRI Studios. And tell us about working with Rick Vargas.
The main thing about TRI is that Rick Vargas, he's this kid, he's only like 25 years old. And Bob Weir wants him to come there every day. I was like, what a job. You just come here at 9 to wait around to see if Bob has some new jams. It's like, yeah, not a bad gig. He got it doing concerts, I think, at the Fillmore. And I think he might be coming to do the next thing. I definitely thought the great, smart young guy. And he got me some shoes. He got me some moccasin shoes.
Did you ever get to see the Grateful Dead?
No, not live.
Never.
When Jerry had an abscessed tooth in the hospital and I was 18, me and my friends went and stood in the parking lot of the hospital and waved up at him. We were there for the party, but I loved Jerry Garcia. I just don't want to be dishonest. They're a big part of growing up in Oregon, That's in Oregon, that's just, you reach puberty and they tell you that you're a Dead, it's just the Dead. Your dad likes the Dead, everyone. It's the common denominator. They feel it's like home team. They're just right down. We take all San Francisco stuff and pretend it's ours.
You're listening to Music Business Radio. My guest today is Todd Snider, and his new band, Hardworking Americans, has a self-titled LP out. Also, though, they've put out a 45 with the song Don't Want to Hurt Nobody. The artwork on the cover here is a photo that Neil Casal, your guitar player in the band, took. And tell me about this hat.
Yeah, I had that, got that a long time ago. Someone gave it to me after a show. It was really sunny or something, in one of them days. And I took it and bore it for a while. It wasn't like it looks now. I threw it in the van. A speaker got thrown on top of it. Years went by. Then that speaker got sold, and I was like, well, where was this hat? And it had its own, it looked like its own thing. So I threw it on, wore it around forever, and then it just looked like that. And then somebody gave me that band. I threw that on there. And then I married Jason Isbell and Amanda Shires, and all the girls had these flowers that were on the sides of their heads. And I said, that's so pretty the way they have that on their heads. And then after the wedding, my hat disappeared. And then started a new tour and got on the bus, and she was on there with him, and they had sewn those flowers on that hat. And that's been, I don't know, over a year ago now.
You married Jason and Amanda?
I became a reverend so I could do it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and now I can marry anybody.
Yeah, and Jason is someone who has left his Alabama roots and decided to call the Nashville, Tennessee area home.
Oh, for sure. A good addition to our town, too. I like to pretend that they're both East Siders, because they are, in a way. They're
in their hearts.
They're heroes.
Even though they live in Donaldson.
There's more posters of them on walls in my neighborhood than any neighborhood in this town.
Who are some of the other people living here in Nashville that you think are awesome, that maybe are under the radar and don't get the credit they deserve?
Well, you always hesitate to call somebody under the radar because they might not want to consider themselves that way. So I always think of the people I'm going to name. Sometimes people say to me, how come that person hasn't done better? And I always want to say, well, do you know what that person's done? And I would start with Kevin Gordon, who wrote Down to the Well. And then people go, it's not fair. And I'm like, Kevin Gordon got a Keith Richards cut. So I'd trade my house for that,
Are you a Stones fan?
Like crazy. That's one of the things that connects East Nashville is we don't argue about the Stones. That's the main thing. If the fight breaks out, you got to just go, hey, Stones, dudes, Stones. And we all calm down. We agree on the Stones, do we not? All right. That's how we break up fights over there.
No Stones cuts on here. No covers of the Stones.
That's too. I think that would be, I don't think that would be okay. I feel like, remember when Reba McEntire did Respect? I feel like that was, for me, a line that I would like to try to avoid crossing. It's just in my own brain, and I wouldn't put it on somebody else. But, I think Beatles, Stones, Dylan, Dead, Hendrix, and then there's some songs, too. But those 5 groups, it feels almost sacrilegious. And whereas these songs, I felt like these were songs that, if we're lucky, they'll get heard by more people than they would have because David Schools is playing bass on them.
Down to the Well, the Kevin Gordon song you just mentioned, beautiful song.
I think it's a masterful song, and he's written so many. He did Deuce and Accordion and Cadillac that Keith Richards did. He was a poet from Iowa, and he was also a great guitar player, played with Greg Brown, and he kept winning poetry contests, so he decided to come down here and go for it. And like a lot of people that they get here, and the traction that they build up playing in clubs starts to kick in faster than the traction they might get from some country singer wanting their songs. And so they just end up writing their songs for their gigs, and who knows what makes someone's life go that way. But he's just got a ton of songs that I'll bet someday country singers will sing songs of his.
I see that it's actually a co-write. It's Kevin Gordon and Colin Linden.
Kevin writes lots of songs with other people, too. And then his records, though, his last record, Rolling Stone magazine wrote about it and said it was terrific. We've got a ton. There's a ton more songs just in my neighborhood, I think, that would be good for a rock band. Mostly because it's like these guys that write songs for their own gigs. They tend to end up being more like songs the band or somebody like that could cut than a country singer could cut. But then where are you going to get a band like the band that isn't going to want to write their own songs? Us,
As far as songwriting goes, have you done much co-writing? Do you like that at all?
I do. I like to do it. I've tried it with lots of people. My favorite would be Loretta Lynn. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I always think of them more like songwriting lessons because... And I know it sounds like I'm overly trying to be humble, but I just think that's more what you do. A lot of times you don't get songs out of it. You just get to see how the other person does their trick, and you get to show them how you kind of map your thing out, and then you can take bits from that later.
Tell me about working with Loretta Lynn.
She is a beautiful woman and didn't even have makeup on, and she has this little shack behind her big, huge house that has a guitar in it and a couple of chairs in it and a refrigerator. It looks like a big refrigerator, but it's a safe. And when she opens it up, all these notepads like that one you have, like yellow legal notepads, that just tumble out. And then she says, I'll make you some whiskey and you go through some of them, see if you like any of that stuff. And it's just acres of it. And some of it's like personal letters to people, like to Johnny Cash, it's like, wow. Wow. And she was sweet to me, I feel like I learned a ton about making up songs from her. And when I got arrested at one point in Greencastle, she tried to get me out. It didn't help, but she tried. She called them while I was in there, and I thought that was a sweet gesture.
You've been arrested before? I thought you were an all right guy.
Just once.
I thought you were an all right guy, Todd Snider.
That's what they said when I got there.
That's one of the songs that I've got to play as a DJ on Lightning 100 over the years.
That song was like on the radio a little bit, for reals.
Yeah, all right, guy. You all you did was say some mean things to those cops.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's so funny. There were so many bleeps in that, but that was kind of a song.
Was that really based on your own experience?
No, what's funny is that song. I like it and I sing it and I'm glad people like it, but when I was working with John Prine and trying to learn from him and after having worked with John and heard him talk about making up songs, that song would just say, I just got dropped from this record company, and I don't know where I'm going to go now, and I don't know if I have my old gig back in Memphis. If I had that song back, it would be way better, and it wouldn't be a bunch of gibberish. It would be what was really happening that day, which was was driving back from Nashville to Memphis, and I'd been dropped from Liberty Records. And the I Think I'm All Right was the only part of it that got honest, and then the rest of it was sort of wimpy, if you ask me. Then the rest of it was just trying to avoid the truth, and then turned it into a ditty. So I like that song, but I think it could have been just as funny and just as fun and been more about being fired from a record company for not knowing who you wanted to be. You know what's funny? I have never met somebody that worked for a record company that I didn't like. And I've been in the music business for 25 years. I've never been sued, never sued anybody, don't have anybody on a list that I feel like ripped me off or told me they were going to do something that they didn't do. I have not had one bad experience in the music business. I don't feel like I'm owed a single dollar from anyone. And the only thing I think is there's some people that worked harder for me than I worked for them, and I wish I could do that back. But other than that, I would definitely advise somebody's kids to get into it. It's a moral place to ply your trade.
What about the current album, Hardworking Americans? It's on Melvin Records.
Hell yeah.
Has it been great working with them?
That's George Bodecker. He invented the Croc shoes with the holes in the sides of them. And he makes Hunter Thompson look like he's just getting warmed up. Like, I can't keep up with George Bodecker, and he's a genius, too. While he's partying you under the table, he's making millions of dollars on a phone, buying property while he's also saying the funniest thing at the dinner table. And just... There's a guy named Bob Mercer that signed me many years ago, and he told me, he knew he was sick, and he told me that I had to go with Bert. And Bert and George are old friends, too. And that's just certain kind of person that really works for me. You know, it's not ironic, or it's not lost on me that the guy who's managed me for 5 years was the guy that they sent to take care of Warren Zevon. I'm not saying I'm like that either. I'm just saying I've been really treated well by some cats that know how to do stuff but aren't afraid to stay out past 2 in the morning.
Well, I want to take a listen, as we wrap up this section, I want to take a listen to Down to the Well. I think it's one of the great songs on the new album, the self-titled debut release from Hardworking Americans, Down to the Well on Music Business Radio.
Mud-colored dogs guarding shotgun shacks, a red door on a green Cadillac, hot wind blowing smoke through graveyard streets, a face I recognize staring right through me. Ain't going down to the well no more. Believe I have my fill. Work that ground till I done got so. Ain't going back down to the well. Played that dive 20-some odd years. Through the faith and the whiskey, your face See that woman in the corner, brother, she knows every inch of my body, every mile of my soul. We used to shake them on down to the blazing day. What's she doing at night, watching me that way? Ain't going down to the well no more. Believe I had my fill. Work that ground till I done got sold. Ain't going back down to the well. Ain't going down to the well no more. Believe I had my fill. Work that ground till I done got sold. Ain't going back down to the well.
Hi, this is Lisa Marie Presley, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
Does this sound familiar? You're a musician in Nashville, trying to make it, wondering when you're going to get your big break. All you need is for the right people to hear your music, and you'll be on your way. Well, we're the right people, and we're here to help. Lightning 100 Regent Soundstage Studios and Jackalope Brewing Company present the 6th annual Music City Mayhem. It's a tournament featuring local Nashville musicians battling for a spot on Live on the Green 2014. Plus, the winning artist will have a song played in heavy rotation on Lightning 100 for a month. Submit your music by going to lightning100.com, then click on contests. Deadline for entry is February 21st at 11:59 p.m. Go from your garage to the big stage at Live on the Green. Enter the 6th annual Music City Mayhem today. Presented by Regents, Jackalope Brewing Company, and Nashville's independent radio, Lightning 100.
This is Chris Bodley with Nashville's very own Flat Rock Revival, and we learned everything about the music business from Music Business Radio.
Talking to Todd Snider on Music Business Radio about his new band, the Super Project, Hardworking Americans. It has Dave Schools of Widespread Panic, Neil Casal, Dwayne Trucks, Chad Staley, and a recent addition to the band is Jesse Aycock, and I believe in those live shows he's going to be playing some pedal steel.
Yeah.
The band title is Hardworking Americans, and that theme kind of runs through the songs that you chose.
Yeah, I think so. Our thought was we wanted to steal patriotism back for the weird and the people that you wouldn't normally associate it with. I think if there was any place a flag should wave, it would be like in the parking lot of a fish show or at Burning Man or at these places where people are actually taking the bounds of freedom and seeing how far they can be pushed in search of joy. So I just feel like, we want to have a band that people who like Marilyn Manson can wave a flag to. Or people who like anybody,
Well, let's see who likes this song. It's Hardworking Americans, Blackland Farmer. Todd Snider is our guest today on Music Business Radio.
When the Lord made me the simple man, not much money and not much land. He didn't make no banker or no legal charmer. When the Lord made me, he made a black land farmer. My hands ain't smooth, my face is rough, but my heart is warm and my ways ain't tough. I'm the luckiest man that you ever been born, because the Lord gave me health and a black land farm. Plant cotton, I'm gonna plant hay. Smell of that sweet breeze blow right on my black lamb farm. I said, hey, all right. I've been drinking muddy water from a hollow log. That man down there, Lord, no, he treat me like a dirty dog. Let's play. Closer to you, God. Pine in the ground and I'm breaking up the sod. Mind is at ease, I can do no harm. Lord, I owe it all to you and my black lamb farm. Simple man, not much money, not much man. Make no banker, no legal charmer. When the law made me, he made a black man farmer.
You've actually, Todd Snider, you've had a couple cuts in the country music world.
Sure.
Were they planned? Were you trying to have the song, or someone just ran across it like, this guy's a great songwriter, let's take one of his?
Or maybe just heard the song, I think. The biggest one was when Mark Chestnut did a song called Trouble, and that was number 16, I think. And that he just heard the record because I had made a record with Tony Brown, and then Tony's next record was Mark Chestnut's, and I think that happens a lot. You know, it's like, listen to this thing I just did. And then, let's see, Garth Brooks did All Right Guy. From Heaven, he said he saw it on Austin City Limits. Jack Ingram did one, but we wrote it together. I've never had anybody that was going to try to get... I don't think I've got good enough. I wouldn't say good enough, but useful enough to do that. I think the way they get found is probably the best. I don't think I have the kind of songs that some cat should be sitting around listening to for Kenny Chesney, and I wish I did. I really do. And if I had a song going heading that way, I would head that way with a million miles an hour. I love that cat. You know, there's just cats that can do it. Casey Beathard is my favorite one at that, and sometimes I try to make songs up like his.
How many songs do you think you've written?
Too many, way too many. Probably hundreds. A lot less in the last 10 years. But lots. And then especially if you count the ones that I just make up and then sing once and then don't do again.
You write the song, you're like, didn't like it?
Well, would you play that again if Guy Clark was here? No. You'd ask him what he wanted to drink.
You'd ask him if he wants some homegrown tomatoes.
Yeah, something like that. Or if Prine was in here, would you whip out one of your old ones, or would you play this thing that you just made up?
Do you have any favorite John Prine songs?
Oh, yeah. I would say my favorite one is probably Bruised Orange. Chain of Sorrow. It's about a time when he saw a kid get killed when he was really young, and then years later he got his heart broke, and he was like, oh, that's what that feeling was. And I got to ask him about it when I was really young, and he played it for me once, before I was a singer.
I believe I read sometimes you look at a song and you say, that's a perfect song.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. My guy named Kent Finley taught me how to make up songs, and he used to say that. And it's funny because when I say it, I catch myself and say, that's not how you should phrase that, because it really is in the ear of the beholder, and there's no such thing as a perfect song. That is a fact, that there is no such thing as a perfect song. But so I should say that song would be perfect for me to sing. That's what I think I mean when I say that. And it's usually a song that I memorize it immediately, and maybe it's just more something I wish I had said. But also, there really is. I learned to write songs from this guy named Kent Finley, and he had all these rules that he had. And as I met my heroes, they seemed to have those same rules. And so I take a song like The Gambler and say, I think even by standards, like I think even by Chris Christopherson in that group, there are some songs like that where Peter Cooper would go, The Gambler is a perfect song.
Can you tell us some of the rules? Do you remember some of the rules you could share?
Boy, Shel Silverstein, does it have a twist and a hook and a, boy, there's one thing we call the Rocky line. It's hard to describe, but, if you think about it this way, it is almost impossible to describe. I would say you almost have to sing it. Alliteration, inner rhyme, levels received on a few levels. First time you hear it, you think it's about one thing. Second time you realize it's another thing. Third time you realize it's an even further thing. The Gambler is that. Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett is one. Paradise, L.A. Freeway.
Norbert Putnam said you need to have conflict.
Oh, well, that's, basic part of writing, too. I never thought about it too much because I'm also trying to do one. Maybe the one I did about the train, that got close, I think. I think the words to that are pretty good. But then, I don't know, I could have taken that to somebody like Jim Lauderdale, and wow, man, it could have been something else. But I didn't know that or think of that at the time.
Well, Todd, I appreciate you spending time with us today, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate getting to be on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Music Business Radio, a production of Tuned In Broadcasting Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee. Recorded in the WRLT Lightning 100 studios. Music Business Radio is produced by Gary Crane, David Hooper, and Dan Buckley. Special technical assistance by Tom Hansen. With Pro Tools post-production by Justin Hamill and Dan Buckley. And Lester said, the train leaves in 5 minutes. For information on syndication, guest booking, demo derby music, or downloading previous episodes, visit musicbusinessradio.com.
Music Business Radio.